On Friday evening, very late on Friday evening, Donald Trump decided to get on Truth Social and, as per usual, have yet another meltdown over the fact that he is getting absolutely spanked by Kamala Harris. Now, I should point out, before I even read his latest meltdown, that this actually happened before the new polls came out over the weekend, showing that Harris now has a crushing 7-point national lead over Donald Trump. Okay, that alone is pretty significant, and yes, you would expect that to cause a meltdown in Trumpland, but again, this actually happened before that news came out. Here is what Donald Trump said late in the evening on Friday after he was just apparently stewing on it all day long. Here it is. Kamala Harris is the weakest presidential candidate in history on crime. She's allowed millions of people to pour through our borders, many from prisons, mental institutions, and indeed terrorists, coming in at levels never seen before. What gives her the right to run for president? She got no votes to Biden's 14 million. She failed in her previous attempt, was the first one out of 22 people to quit, never made it to Iowa, and now she's a presidential candidate? This is a threat to democracy. No, it's a threat to your campaign, and that's why you're freaking out. Because so far, you can no longer, by the way, call this the Harris honeymoon. It's been over a month now, and she's only getting better in the polls. Like, the polls haven't stalled. They have not tapered off. If anything, they're getting better for her by the day. So she has every right to run for president of the United States. She meets the constitutional criteria. So how dare you ask how she even has a right to run for president? For the record, when you start attacking your opponent as somebody who may not have the so-called right to run for president, you've lost the game. You have absolutely 100% fallen off so bad that maybe you're the one that shouldn't be running for president because you're so flippin' bad at this. But let's address a couple of the actual claims he made, because it's obvious from this post that he is trying to get on a message here, right? Like he's trying to say she's bad on crime, she's bad on the border. Well, violent crime across the United States has actually fallen over the last 2 years. Fallen to levels, by the way, below Trump's last year in office. So violent crime is better today than it was when Trump was last in office. So you probably don't want to hit on that because the Democrats can hit you back even harder. As for your claim that people are coming into this country from prisons and mental institutions, there is no truth in that at all and never has been. That is literally something he made up, I guess, years ago and just stuck with it. He had an idea. He had a thought, a crazy thought, but a thought nevertheless. He just ran with it, put it out there, and that's his new talking point. There is no truth in that whatsoever. Then, of course, the terrorists, right? Oh my God, the terrorists that have come into this country. Yeah, you mean the ones that we've caught? Every time there's a headline about somebody that's on the terror watch list that gets apprehended at the border, which is what's supposed to happen, Republicans go, they put it on social media like, this is a travesty, this is Biden's America. And everybody points out like, yeah, Biden's America where we catch the terrorists? Like, how is that bad? Whenever there's a big drug bust at the border, Republicans like, there it is. There's all the horrible things. It's like, no, we got it. We stopped it. There was a problem, but the government did its job and prevented it from actually becoming a problem. So y'all are highlighting the good things Biden and Harris have done without even realizing it, because that's how bad you guys have just gotten at campaigning, because you don't even know what the hell is going on in this country. But Trump's meltdown, taken as a whole, as I usually like to say, these are symptoms. These are symptoms of a man that has completely lost his grip on reality. And every time those new poll numbers come out, showing her winning by 5 points, then 6, now 7, showing Donald Trump getting decimated in swing states. Every time we get a new one of these polls, Trump goes more and more insane. Every time, like last week, the reason this happened on Friday before the worst polls came out was, of course, because the DNC ratings came out. Every single night of the DNC crushed every single night of the RNC. Millions more viewers for the Democrats every single night. Harris's speech crushed Donald Trump's speech by millions more viewers. And he doesn't know how to handle this. He still, as a 78-year-old man, cannot properly process his emotions. The only thing he knows how to do is to hop on his failing Truth Social platform, which somehow, some way is actually failing even worse than his presidential campaign, if you can believe it. But that's where he goes. He whines and cries like this petulant child, and that is his form of therapy. Unfortunately, his form of therapy should not be happening in the public, because the more he does it, the more he turns off the voters, which then makes him crazier. So he posts crazier things, and it's a perpetuating cycle. What needs to happen, and I mean this in all sincerity here, is that Donald Trump needs to sit down behind closed doors with a licensed therapist, if not a full-blown psychiatrist. He needs to work through his problems. And honestly, if his advisors, if his family had any sense or even actually cared about the guy, this is what they would be telling him. Not because he's crazy, you can leave that part out of it, but you should tell him, listen, obviously you've got anger issues. Obviously you've got some things that you want to say. So here is a safe space where you can tell this person, and this person is legally obligated to not tell anybody else what you say. Go and have that be your venting session, okay? Have that be your form of therapy, because it's actual therapy from somebody who knows how to help you work through these emotions. But nobody's going to do that, because I genuinely think that even among his own family, nobody cares about this guy enough to actually get him help. They, just the same way he looks at them, view him as the tool, right? This is the tool I use to make things better for myself. But y'all need to be careful, because you're wearing down that tool. It's not going to be useful much longer. And the worse that tool gets, the worse a job it does, and all the things it is building are going to come crashing to the ground. So while you think it may be useful to have the tool around and keep using it, even though it's obviously failing, everything you're building with it is not going to sustain you in the future. And I hope that metaphor was kind of good enough, but that's the way I see this happening. If Donald Trump had anyone in his life, anyone at all, and throughout his entire life, if he had anyone that ever genuinely cared about him, this is what they would have told him. And his campaign would not be in the shape that it's in today. But it is, because through 78 years of his life, not a single person worked with him on how to handle his emotions, never sent him to a professional to learn how to handle his emotions. And now he is just an emotionally stunted 78-year-old that's tanking his own campaign with his nonstop online temper tantrums.